hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but honestly, once you put that hard work behind you and just grind, I mean, everything else will take care of itself. So, like you said, the fruits of the labor are starting to show up.
How highly of anticipated of a day is this for you? You've been training for this day all along, and now that it's finally here, is it a sigh of relief at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not content. Never content, but I mean, you just know it's here. Don't think too much into it. It's something you've been doing for, years now. So it's not really that big of a, stage, but you definitely want to make an impression.
It looks like Fago from Pro Players Insider had a question. He raised his hand, so let's go ahead and go to him real quick.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. You had an impressive career with Marshall. What do you think you need to improve on with potentially getting to that pro level of football?
Anybody that's watched my tape extensively, I would say maybe just back end speed. But outside of that, what I kind of hear is just maybe just kind of stay more downhill. But I mean, outside of that, not really too much.
And my last question is, if I may, how have you adapted since the pandemic with getting workouts and staying healthy?
Can you repeat that, please? It was a glitch.
Oh, yes, sir. How have you adapted since the pandemic with getting workouts in and staying healthy?
I can't hear you.
Hey, Brenden. He was saying, how have you done with the pandemic, getting your workouts in and staying healthy?
That just is what it is. Just kind of just take it as it comes. I mean, a lot of us don't have access to our own gyms or anything like that. So honestly, it just comes down to just phoning a friend at the end of the day. Garages, kids in the neighborhood, friends of the family, just kind of getting into whatever they have available to them and kind of just getting access to that however you can.
All right. Thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Justin Zimmer. Raised his hand. Justin, go ahead.
Hey, Brenden, Justin Zimmer, WMUL. Brenden, what is your plan beyond Pro Day to get the remainder of your workouts in prior to the draft in April?
As you know, there's no private workouts or anything like that. We've been getting at it pretty extensively. Probably just stick to kind of field work. I mean, all the combine stuff's out the window at that point. So probably just fine tune some field work stuff and just get some more position work in.
Mark Lane has a question. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah. Who's your agent and where have you been training?
Aston Wilson with Agency One, and I've been down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
What was it? Is it a place like Exos or just what kind of gym is it?
XPE with Matt Gates and Tony Villani.
Thank you.
Brenden, what kind of feedback have you gotten so far from the NFL? I mean, I know the combine wasn't what it has been in the past, but I'm sure you've still gotten some sort of feedback.
Yeah, just from people that I've spoken to, just little stuff that you can kind of just keep in the back of your head just going forward. The biggest thing would probably just be probably just catching. That's a lot of stuff that I wasn't able to showcase, here throughout my time here. Just catching is something a lot of people want to see more. And that's probably the biggest consistent thing I've probably got back.
Knox, in these times, how much do you have to really market yourself as a player, especially a guy that's coming out and maybe, at a smaller school like Marshall, not as much attention per se as a national program? How do you have to market yourself because there are no private workouts and things like that due to COVID?
Just getting into as many different platforms as you possibly can, whether that be, podcasts, in front of a camera as often as possible, and just as many media outlets that have a good outreach. So that's really the biggest thing with a COVID year. So that's pretty much it for me.
In looking at this past season, how truly difficult was it as a student athlete at the collegiate level? Testing 3 times a week, trying to follow the protocols, trying to be a student at the same time, and steer clear of potential dangers there on campus as far as trying to stay safe. Exactly how difficult of a process was this during the 2020 football season?
Very difficult. It's never been done before. No one's ever had to go through that. So most definitely difficult, but it just comes down to just being able to navigate around that and being able to adjust on the fly.
Because of that, do you feel like the 2021 draft class is mentally going to be about as tough as any draft class that's ever had to come out?
I would say so.
Mark Lane has a question. Mark, go ahead.
Who are some running backs that you look up to that are, currently in the NFL or maybe in NFL history?
Ezekiel Elliott.
What do you like about Zeke's game?
Just how stout he is in every aspect of the game. I've been watching him since he was at O State, just kind of being in my backyard, being a Columbus kid. He runs well, he catches, and he embraces, blitz protection. He's second to none when it comes to that. So, I like to model everything behind him with whatever he does on the field, honestly, because that is what greatness is currently.
Thank you.
Tim Morris has a question. Tim, go ahead.
At Marshall, you obviously didn't fumble very much. Is that something you've worked on, or is that something coached into you? Or is that just something that's come natural since high school?
Coaching was a big aspect with that, especially with Pepe Pearson. That was one of the biggest things that he kind of drilled and instilled in us since we were freshmen here. And it just goes hand in hand with being able to pass protect too. If you can't, carry the rock and not be able to fumble it, and if you can't pick up the blitz, you're not going to play. It just comes down to trust factor with the coaching staff.
Hey, Brenden, what have your coaches, or former coaches at Marshall, told you about what you could expect during this time?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. What have your coaches at Marshall told you about what you could expect during this time period of you trying to make that NFL transition?
Not really much on that. Just be true to who you are, and just work hard, and everything else to take care of itself. Not really too much in that aspect.